Hey everybody, I decided to go live because my computer died on me, and then I had to go pick it up, and I was hungry and I'm waiting for my food. So I was sitting in the car trying to write you guys, email content for today, but I decided it's hot in my car. Let me just get outside. There's not a bunch of people out here, so I'm okay without a mask. Like literally maybe one person has walked past me where I'm sitting, so today we're going to talk about stress-free finances because it's tax day. So for those who don't know me, my name is Aisha, and I run a company called Self-Care by Aisha, where I help senior-level working women avoid or recover from burnout. And so I know that a lot of people are stressed by finances. So I have an email list, right? And if you want to get on my email list, you can go to selfcarebyAisha.com/free gift and get that and get a free self-care plan, but that puts you on my email list. So I asked my email list as well as my friends on LinkedIn, as like over 100 women, what when it comes to stress in your personal life, what are your biggest challenges or frustrations? And you told me. And one of the ones that I didn't expect to see was the one about finances, that finances are stressing you out. So I know that finances stress people out, but I just didn't think it was going to rate so highly. But that's not what I do, right? I don't give financial advice or anything like that. I don't focus on people how to getting out of debt and stuff like that. There's tons of other people who have done that, but I at least could tell you my story because you guys told me that it was stressing you out. I was like, I don't think it's stressing me out, but maybe I need to look into my finances, right? And so I started kind of doing that. And then a friend of a friend, Nasima, started popping up everywhere because Nasima paid off like $200,000 in debt in 18 months. I was like, what? Oh, hold up. So I started watching her story. And then I think within 3 or 4 years, Nasima paid off $1 million worth of debt. Okay. So I would say like $500,000 were like student loans and, just running up, credit cards, different things, stuff from her divorce. The other half of the debt is that she sold her house. And some people are like, well, that ain't real debt. It is still debt, right? Be like, your house is good debt. She was like, I'm getting rid of all of it so I can start anew. So that inspired me. I was like, okay, so Nasima's doing the damn thing. So maybe I need to tighten it up a little bit because, I don't really know where my money's going. I feel like I should live a more fabulous life, but I wasn't. Okay. And so I was like, all right, I need to look into this. So Nasima started talking about Dave Ramsey and his baby steps. I had heard of them, but I hadn't looked into them. And I would recommend everybody start there, right? Say what you want about Dave Ramsey. He's a little crazy, but his system is so easy. There's other systems that will get you the same or better results, but they're complicated. So you might not finish it. So with his steps, you could do that. So that's the first thing I wanted to share was that. So then I was like, okay, I need to go further. And I decided that I don't know why these trucks, I guess it's delivery time because I'm waiting on my food and I guess every truck is trying to deliver right now. So I'm trying to use my time wisely. So then I was like, you know what? I really, really, really need to look into this. So I decided at the end of 2018 that I was going to listen to 1 hour of a financial podcast every day. Like I have an hour in my commute that I could do that. So I could learn something. And then, so I did that like the last quarter of 2018. And then I just kept going into 2019. But then I realized I just never got, because it's not like my main focus, I never got down to really putting the lessons down and sharing them with you guys. So since today's tax day, I was like, I'm thinking about finances. So let me go ahead and share these out. And it was too hot in my car for me to type. So I was like, let me just do a video because to me, done is better than perfect. Me getting these lessons out to you is better than me trying to perfect this email or whatever, or worry about these cars going by. But, hey, so y'all get some tips while I'm waiting on my food. Okay, so first, Dave Ramsey and the baby steps. Let's do that first. Get your budget together, see where your money's going. Are you making enough? Are you not realizing you're not making enough money? You need to do a little side hustle. You need to ask for a raise. Or are you making enough money and you're like, well, why am I in all this debt then? If I'm making enough money, why am I overspending, right? Getting the spending habits in order. All right, so now this person wants to put on the radio, but I'm in public. I can't say what people are supposed to do. Okay, so then we got that. So you got to work on your budget. That is the first thing. So then, even before that, I was always trying to figure out ways to side hustle. So I used to be an extreme couponer. That was like the first fun fact. I used to be extreme couponer. And then I started doing mystery shopping. That was making me a little bit money. But then I realized one day, it's just, I could save myself a lot of time if I would just ask for a doggone raise. So that's my second tip. Get your budget together and then figure out how you can make a little extra money. So you could do that by side hustling, or you can ask for a raise. And now I do that by public speaking. So when I get a speaking engagement that's paid, that's my side hustle, right? So I always try to figure out how to make a little extra money. But I really say, first just ask for that raise. Get paid more for what you're already doing 9 to 5. That is a tip that I would share with everybody. So let me tell you about some things that I learned by listening to a financial podcast every day. And to me, that's just like, podcasts are a life hack. Is there something you want to learn or something you want to do? You can just spend a couple hours a week listening to other people's stories and just taking a nugget off of that, right? And sometimes it was a nuggets for me. Sometimes it was like a story of somebody I didn't relate to, and maybe it was a nugget for somebody else. So to me, it was never wasted time. So I started listening to the Dave Ramsey podcast and listening to what he had to say. And so what I liked about him is that he just had these rules, and he was like, just stick to them. Don't try to be just do them. They work, they work. And if you don't want to spend a lot of brain power, you don't want to be looking at all these spreadsheets and figuring out all of the math, just do what he says. To me, that's the first thing. So then in that, I also learned about the FIRE movement on another podcast called Choose FI. And I think I also learned about this one from Nasima. And FI is financial independence, and it's called the FIRE movement because it's financially independent, retire early, right? So they put those two things together. So there's this idea that if we have to all retire at this 65 or 67, right? Because that's when you get your Social Security. But what if you decided I wanted to retire early? How would you do that, right? So there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. But to me, it was more about the mindset to say, do I have to wait till I'm 65 to retire? What can I do with my time? How can I earn more money? How can I invest more? And so that was the strategy I'm learning from them right now and kind of putting into action, is just to invest more. And so the first place, if you have a 401k, is to figure out how to invest more in your 401k. Because here's the thing. So at first I was like, well, I don't want to put more into my 401k because my paycheck is going to be smaller. That's what I kept thinking. So then I started to look into it, and I was like, okay, so if I, let's say, put $100 more into my 401k, I might have $70 left in my paycheck, right? Because it's pre-tax. So that's the first thing. I was like, oh, if I put $100 in my 401k, doesn't mean there's $100 coming out of my check. Interesting. So now I got $70 less in my check, but I have $100 in this other bank account. And here's the thing, that $100 would have went to taxes anyway, right? So instead of sending that $30 difference, that's less in taxes, right? So it's not that I'm getting less money in my check, but I'm just actually putting this money into a bank account, another bank account. No, I can't touch it, but I realized that I really realized what it meant for your 401k to be a savings vehicle. I just wasn't getting it. I was just like, well, there's not enough money for me to spend today. I want that $100 today. But I was like, oh, I'm not really losing out on that $100. When I was paying in taxes, I was losing out on it because it was just going to Uncle Sam to fix your pothole, right? So, but now it's like, well, no, that's my money for later. And so this next lesson I learned, it was like, I went to this financial planner, and we really talked about okay, what do you want your retirement life to look like? A lot of some people have to continue to work past retirement, get part-time jobs. And I was like, oh, by me putting the money over there, this is helping me maybe not have to have a part-time job in retirement. I was like, okay, click. So lesson, start to put some money in your 401k, because it's not that you're losing money, because I thought I was losing money. I'm actually gaining money by not sending it to the tax man, because remember, it's tax day, and that's why we're talking about this. By not sending it to the tax man, but paying myself. so I was like, oh, okay, 401k, paying myself. Like, I kind of knew that, but I really didn't get it well enough to make me actually want to increase my 401k savings. So that is what I really have learned from the FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early movement, is to really, really think, like, challenge this notion that you have to retire at 65 or 67. Like, there are ways you can do that, so you can, you can go learn about that. Another thing so then from that, I was like, oh, but the FIRE movement, these financial independence people, they all really, really white. And I always need examples of Black people that are doing this. I just don't believe it until I see a Black person doing it. So then, I kind of had Nasima, and then Nasima introduced me to, oh my gosh, Journey to Launch, Jamila Souffrant, right? And so she's a Black woman, Jamaican heritage from New York, and she was on this journey as well. And she has her own podcast. And so what I like about her podcast, the Journey to Launch podcast, is she's got a whole lot of Black people on there talking about what they're doing. So I was like, okay, bet I need to hear Black stories, right? Share Black stories. And so again, those messages were being reinforced. Like, do we have to wait until 65 to retire? There are other things that you can do. So that was next one. Okay, so then I listened to another podcast that's not necessarily about finances, but it is in some ways about your just like life freedom, and it's called the Secret to Success podcast with Eric Thomas. And so it's Caribbean hour here. Why are these people at work? I'm waiting for my food. Okay. Why am I not at work? Had to go pick up my laptop. But so Secret to Success podcast. So I really like that podcast because it's just helped my mindset overall. It's helped me learn like to be a better person and be a better employee. And they had someone who was from their audience. His name is Jamal King, come to talk about his real estate goals, right? So if you go on Instagram, he's 9-to-5 millionaire. And so if you ask him, like prior to like 2 years ago, you ask him what he did, he would say, I'm a Chicago police officer. And people were like, well, you going on trips, you doing yacht trips, you doing all this, how are you a police officer? Well, early in his 20s, he decided to start investing in real estate. And so a lot of people do that, but here to me was the difference. It's because he was goal-oriented with his real estate. So he had decided, like, he wanted to go to the NFL, didn't get there. Now he's a police officer, but he's like, just because I'm a police officer doesn't mean I can't live that NFL lifestyle. So that's different, right? Some people would just resign and be like, oh, well, didn't make it. So what he did was basically sit down with his wife and say, okay, so what is this lifestyle we want to live? And how much does each thing on our lifestyle cost? And can we find a property that will net us the things that we want in our lifestyle, right? So our dream house is, $2,500 a month or $3,500 a month. Can we find a rental property that would net us, like net after all expenses, that money that could fund our dream house? So they just went, for every bill or every dream, they bought a property to go with it that would pay that off. So then I was like, that's interesting. He figured out how to do this on a cop salary. That's interesting. Maybe I could do it, right? So I started to learn from him. I've taken his course, Make Real Estate Real. And then here's where the magic happens. When you start going after something, then, things fall in place. So I'm like, okay, so I got to figure out, I've done all this budgeting stuff, and I'm putting more money in my 401k, but where is the down payment for this rental probably going to come from? Okay, I need to save more. So I started doing that. And then I get a call from somebody to say, oh, this investment that like one of your ancestors invested in, like somebody wants to pay us for it. Like, and I was like, well, shit, there's the money for my rental property. So in the process of working for that. So you know how they, Paulo Coelho, I think that's how you say his name. There's a quote that, it's essentially when you focus on something, the universe is, when you focus on something, the universe conspires to make it happen. That's not the quote, but that's the paraphrase. And so that's what I feel like happens in my life. When I finally set the goal, I take 2 or 3 steps, then I start to meet people. Then all of a sudden, I declutter and I find a piece of paper that says, oh, if you had submitted this, you could have had this $500, all these things. So if you start moving your 2 feet, listening, learning, your goals will start coming together, right? So y'all know I'm not super woo-woo, but that's just the truth of my life. In the last 5 years, every goal that I start to set set my mind on, then the resources, the stuff to make it happen just kind of comes to my life. So I'm just going to tell y'all that's how it's been working for me. So you might want to try that, right? So now I know more about real estate. I'll be able to make real estate real. And for my people who are watching from like California and from the DC area, because that's the two places I've lived the longest, a lot of us think we can't invest in real estate because the rent's too damn high here. It's super expensive here. But you can invest. So I had to open my mind that maybe I need to invest in places where it's cheaper to get in, stack some there, and then I can come into the market here. Or I've learned from friends that you can go in together, right? So if you need $100,000 to invest something, maybe 4 of you put 25 in, right? Or if it's 50,000, 4 of you put whatever that math is, because I don't do math in my head, right? So there you go. I think it's $12,500, right? So for some of us, we can figure that out if we tighten up, and that kind of thing. So that is the next thing. And so then the thing right now that's really helping me in terms of spending is this budgeting program called You Need a Budget, or YNAB for short. So I've used them all. I've used Mint. I used the Dave Ramsey thing, and I just watch my finances. It did not make me change. I was not getting any better. And so YNAB costs, it's $83 a year. I'm like, well, every other budgeting program is free. Why would I pay for this? Right? So I started it, and then I realized, this is what I realized. It was making me change my habit, because it forced me. If I overspent in a category, it was well, you need to pull for another category. Because I would be floating I'm about to get paid. So even though I have, I could just wait till later. And a lot of times it wasn't that I didn't have money. It was that that money was slated for something else. So I might be robbing from my vacation fund. I might be robbing from my clothing fund because I wanted to go to Happy Hour or whatever. So it really made me say do I want to rob from my goals? And with this program, I have stopped robbing from my goals. My goals are increasing, right? They're staying on point because I'm not always robbing on them for random things. And then I got real. I'm okay, so how many things am I subscribed to? Do I want to be subscribed to all of them? How much do I really spend on groceries? How much do I really spend on Happy Hour? The one that got me was I used to go when outside was fully open, I used to go to what do you call those things? Sometimes I would go out to a party and the party would be $10, right? So I'm thinking that's cheap, right? But then even though I have a car, I like to be safe, right? So those $10, in my head it was $10 a night that I was spending, but it was really $100 because it was $10 to get into the party. But then I would take an Uber there and back, so that might be $40, $50. Whatever I ate or drank there, another $40, $50. So in my mind, I'm doing my thing by going out to these cheap places, paying $10 just to get into this place. But really the damage was $100. And so YNAB helped me figure that out. And that's fine. I still may want to spend the $100, but I just need to be realistic about it, right? So I think my food is ready, so I'm going to go get it so then I can get back home. But I want to tell you today on this tax day that there are all kinds of little things that you can do to get your finances together. So let's recap. We talked about Dave Ramsey and the baby steps. We talked about the Choose FI podcast and looking at figuring out how you can retire early. We talked about Jamal King from Make Real Estate Real and how you could be a 9-to-5 millionaire. We just talked about the You Need a Budget program and what that can do for you. And we started out talking about my girl Nasima and how she really took control of her finances, and she was the one to spark me to do this. All right. So I will see you all later. And later on today, I'm going to put links to all this stuff. And I hope you just take one little step towards putting your finances together, because that is one of the keys to have less stress in your life. And if you want more information and to follow along with what I do, go to selfcarebyAisha.com/free gift and get your free self-care guide. And then you'll be on my email list so I can continue to share these great tips and life hacks with you. See you later.